Following with our Congress, we're going to start the parallel session number 5, Actions, Mobilization Strategies, and Campaigns aiming to reach more participation in sports and physical activities. We'd like to invite to the stage Moderator Daniela Castro for Athletes for Citizenship, and our guest Maitrot from EuroSport France, Kelly Murumets from ParticipAction Canada, and Luiza Souza Dias from Social Services Brazil.
Passo a palavra a Daniela Castro.
And Daniela Castro, you have the floor. Good afternoon, everyone.
Teremos o título hoje dessa mesa estratégias de mobilização.
Topic today is the campaigns which aim at reaching greater levels of participation in sports and physical activities. So even though we're here after lunch, the idea is to talk about action. We've had several diagnoses. Oh, that's right. Lunch is later. Sorry. So it's an even greater challenge to make this very interesting. And we are going to talk about action. I think this is going to inspire us, and bringing this topic here to this Congress, this is our chance to take advantage of these topics because there are so many different initiatives from different organizations and the government and agencies. And we're here to learn a little bit more about other experiences and how they can inspire us and maybe better align our actions here in Brazil and take advantage of the international experiences, looking for information on websites and magazine articles and publications and going around and ask people and trying to understand how successful projects were actually done in practice. So we're going to talk about, we have organizations from the third sector here with very interesting projects to really turn sports into something that is accessible to everyone. We also have a lot of media experiences. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our guests and start the debate. So first, Luiza Souza Dias from Social Services for Sesc Brazil. She's the Vice President for ISCA, Development Manager for Sesc São Paulo. She has a degree in physical education from the University of São Paulo and continued studies from Fundação Getúlio Vargas and the Disney Institute in Florida, sports management from the University of São Paulo, specializing in tennis, from the Fick Braden Tennis School in California. She's the coordinator of the Challenge Day for the South American continent, representing Sesc with Tavisa, the Association for International Sports for All, and FIPADET, the Pan American Federation of Sports for All. Maria Luiza will be the first one to speak. We also have Jakob Schouenborg, who's responsible for the Plus 100 Million campaign from the International Sports and Culture Association. He's the Secretary General at ISCA. He's also worked with the Danish Culture Department. He's a specialist in development and training, promotion, and development of leadership. Patrick Maitrot is from EuroSport France. He's Marketing Director and Partnerships in EuroSport TV, the European network broadcasting to different countries in 20 different languages, broadcasting international sports events. It is a pan-European TV network, which is also a multimedia campaign for over 100 million, which is his campaign. And Kelly Murumets, she is from ParticipAction in Canada. She's the national voice for physical education and sports for all in Canada. ParticipAction has been an icon, a Canadian icon since 1971, which was relaunched in 2007 through her leadership to promote sports and physical education for people of all ages. So we have here very interesting and successful experiences, which we'll learn a little bit more about in a few minutes. And we'll start with Maria Luiza, who is going to present us her campaign.
Well,
good morning, everyone. It's still good morning because even though it's after 12 p.m., we still haven't had lunch. We're going to have lunch a little bit later. And I'm going to have Luciana here to help me. I'm sorry I won't be able to use the remote. My speech here today is going to be about Sesc São Paulo's experience in promoting campaigns to broaden physical activity, not just here in Brazil, but also in all of the American continent. So first, and especially for those who are not from Brazil, I'd like to tell you a little bit about us. We are an institution that has been around for 66 years, and our mission is that through our programs, we want to promote wellness and quality of life and cultural development for our employees from commerce and from the trade industry, but also for the whole community. And to broaden our actions and take our messages to an increasingly large number of people, we use campaigns to promote physical activities. So first, I brought here two examples of campaigns that were executed here, and one of them is the Challenge Day. Maybe you all know it. So I'd like to also take advantage of this opportunity and ask you, who of you know the proposal of this day and this campaign? I can see some partners here, so I can briefly talk about this. We propose that on the last Wednesday of the month of May, people put sedentarism aside and include some kind of physical activity to their daily life. So, of course, this is a call to action for physical activity because it's a Wednesday. Normally, people are working on that day. So how do we manage our schedule to include physical activity in our day? It started, as Kelly very well knows, it started in Canada, and it was taken to Europe, Asia, and it came to Brazil in 1995. This is when Sesc took over this coordination for the Challenge Day, first in Brazil, and today we coordinate all of the American continent. The focus of this proposal is to motivate and have people practice and adopt this type of practice for their everyday life, every day of the year, and recreating these issues that have to do with lifestyle, a healthier life, and making people aware, making people realize the benefits of physical activities and movement to improve their own health. This is a very important value for Challenge Day, but for all of us who work with physical activities and work with sports and promote health, I think there's also another aspect that is worth highlighting, which is the process of building regional networks from a world coordination, a global coordination. We establish a coordination in the different continents, in our case, the American continent, and then we move on to a regional coordination. I'm talking about states and country, and then a local coordination. I'm talking about the cities, and I'm also talking about communities. So you can imagine the size of this work and the size of this exchange and information between these different coordinations. So we really do need to establish a very strong network so that we can actually achieve these results. And we've been able to achieve these results in these last 18 years. These 18 editions of Challenge Day almost 600 million people took part. And it's a very significant number of cities as well included in this challenge. But what matters to us when we promote this type of challenge is what is left, the programs that arise from this stimuli and the changes in behavior, not just in the individual, but the changes in behavior in the community, the spaces that are created in the city, programs that are created in companies and in schools. And today, after all of these years, we have several reports of actions that came about due to this first encouragement. So this is not just a one-day event. This is an event that calls action to a cause, or calls the attention to a cause, excuse me. And we're talking about a very important issue to all of us, which was very well highlighted by Professor Renato Giannini, which is the collective action. But we also have to think about that collective action is really important, but we also need to think about the individual. And Sesc, for almost 18 years, so we have been promoting the Sesc Verão, or Sesc Summer campaign. I think here in Brazil and in other countries around the world, summer is a time when people really focus on physical activity and leisure activity, so we take advantage of this moment and taking to our members an aspect where we highlight a value or an aspect that is already present in our programming, but we highlight it even further, and we take this value and you transform it into a topic, into a theme, which generates a media campaign, and this media campaign will reach an even greater number of people. So we were talking about Challenge Day, which was more collective action, and then we move on to Sesc Verão, Sesc Summer, which is a more individual action. Every year, one theme is highlighted, as I mentioned. I'm not going to be able to tell you all of the themes, so I brought you just an example of a few for you to have an idea how we work with these topics and how we choose these topics. For example, from 2001 to 2004, we had the Circus of the Body. This is what we call it, Circus of the Body. So we try to talk about our choices and how these choices are important for our behavior, for our quality of life. If I choose the stairs or the elevator, there are different consequences for taking the elevator or taking the stairs. So I have different results from these choices, if you prefer. We also talked about the pleasure that is brought about with physical activity, especially for us at Sesc, who promote physical activities using people's free time. We talked about, between 2005 and 2006, we talked about movement. And then I wanted to highlight that fallacy of everyone who says, "Oh, I don't have any time for physical activity." So we call people's attention to how to manage their time and how they can include physical activities in their daily schedules. And our media campaign is time out for you. Include physical activity and leisure activities in your daily life. From 2007 to 2008, due to the Pan American Games here in Brazil, our topic was sports. Between 2009 and 2011, we talked about multiple intelligences and motor action. And then I highlight the multiple intelligences that are linked to sports practices, because intelligence is more linked to a type of sports and so on. And in 2012, Up to 2016, we start the Sports for All cycle. And what we highlighted in Sesc Verão, Sesc Summer 2012 is the change in behavior in terms of individual dimensions and collective dimensions, the different stages of this change, from the pre-contemplation, the contemplation, planning, action, and maintenance of this practice, which we all know how hard and how much we need to work to make people aware that they need to maintain physical practices in their daily lives. And this is always our challenge. So I bring you some figures here just to give you more examples. These are figures from 2012. 1.78 million of people on Challenge Day, just to let you know that these actions do reach a good amount of people. But the campaign really helps us to take this message and take this topic to an even greater number of people. After all of this, all of this experience throughout these last few years, where Challenge Day had a very strong focus on community leadership, empowerment of the communities, and appropriation of public spaces, and the experiences of talking to individuals about practicing, being aware of the wellness, of the benefits of the practice, the culture of sports, which is so important for developing these habits. We think it's time when we are very well prepared to propose a campaign that can stimulate or can encourage people on a more permanent basis. And we know that many of the organizations also work to do this, and they develop campaigns that are also very important. We have several different examples here on the panel today, and many other examples throughout Brazil of promotion activities and promoting physical activity efforts. And we think that it's time to join efforts, to work together, to expand this physical activity practice in Brazil. And that's when we thought of bringing this proposal at this time, which is something that we consider it to be daring. It's a national campaign to promote physical activity. But what it brings the threat is organization of cities such as São Paulo, where traffic is crazy, is chaotic, technological advances, and all of our dynamics, our work dynamic, which is increasingly heavier. We get more and more emails, and social networks call our attention. We have more things to do, and we dedicate less and less time to ourselves. And on the other hand, this is a very important opportunity as well. In Europe, we have the example of Now We Move, the Now We Move platform, which is going to be presented here today, plus the 100 million of active Europeans until 2020, and other important actions in Canada and in several other countries and several other continents. And here, as we've said during these last few days, the great events here for us, where most of our population will look at sports more than they're used to looking at sports. And together with the national department, we bring a campaign, Move Brazil, which considers all of this scenario and all of this look that people are now have towards sports, using Sesc's know-how and leadership and events organization, which considers the commitment of our institution, our organization, in taking sports for all to actually a greater number of people, and considers the importance and the need to make this happen now, as of today, to bring partners so that we can strengthen our action. And this is our brand, Move Brazil, which was launched last Wednesday, this past Wednesday, as you all know. In essence, Move Brazil proposes the development of joint actions between sports and physical activities to democratize access. Our proposal has a macro goal, which is to enhance and expand the practice of physical activities. And this is going to be established for 2016 and linked, as you all know, to the Olympic Games and to the Special Olympics. Sesc's role in this context is a very important role to articulate and identify and bring together partners who can bring actions to promote physical activity and also sports. But this is all, or has been, a very long process which needs to be respected, and all of these phases need to be respected. This is a process where we learn during each of the phases, and we've gone through very important moments when we were fortunate to have help from academic members and public and government officials. Several meetings have been carried out with the several different partners. We already have a report, a research that is ready to be implemented. This research will bring us several different important points, for example, diagnosis and justifications for the practice or for the non-practice of physical activities, to verify the different types of sports that are actually practiced, research the times when people practice, if it's during leisure time, if it's at work, if it's during commuting, and trying to verify the conditions of spaces and equipment, and trying to identify the profile and different opinions of people who don't practice any sports. What type of experience did they have before? Why did they decide not to practice sports? So these are important pieces of information that are going to help us how to very clearly define our goal. This goal, at the moment, we call this a macro goal because it's a number. It's a numerical goal.
To give us an idea what paths we should follow, where we should act more, where we should place more energy to expand the use of physical activity, what initiatives we can develop in partnerships, or every partner can develop within his environment, and also bring important information for the public sector and the civil sector for public policies and development of leisure and sports. Basically, I'm going to quickly go through this because it was already presented at the opening by Fernando, of what would be the actions of our campaign. It will be to create a technical committee with the partners that at this point in time they are at a phase that we consider that it's very important for the process that I mentioned before, which is a phase of getting to know the partners. It need to be very clear for us who we are. We actually had a meeting about this this morning. Only having this information and this exchange of information can we strengthen our partnerships and together define more clearly and objectivity, and with better plans and responsibility, what are the actions that we're going to perform in order to promote physical activity in our country. Only after we're prepared, then we can look for other partners. Only after it's very clear to us what are the first steps we need to take, we will be able to add other partners, and that's the idea of the campaign, to look for other partners to help us to along this path together to reach our goal of expanding the use of physical activity. Media actions in this context is very important. We need a campaign to advertise and communicate clearly what we want to do, what is the strategy we're going to use to expand the use of physical activity and of sports, and we're also going to have something that we're still working on. We should finish doing this by November 23rd. We're going to have a site where we'll be able to exchange experiences from different types of sports. We're going to highlight the actions of different partners, and the idea is that you have a very interactive site and easy to use, and that it will also be built over time during the campaign until I have 1 minute. Okay, so until March, when we will have the result of our research, which I mentioned before. And then, with all the partners being organized and structured, and with a technical committee, we will be able to together define the goals for our country. And then, from then, strengthen the actions of different partners, as well as the whole media campaign. I'd like to show who are, at this point in time, our partners that we are calling movers, and many of them are here with us, including Daniela from Atletas. And I have a video, 1 minute video, and 30 seconds. 1 minute and 30 seconds. This is the video that was presented on Wednesday, and I'd like to finish with this video.
O vídeo está se movendo, mas chega já já. Obrigado.
Thank you very much.
Obrigada, Maria Luiza.
Thank you, Maria Luiza. Now I'm going to pass the mic to Jakob Yeshov so he can do his 15-minute presentation.
you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. And indeed, for me, seeing Move Brazil as a campaign coming up is extremely inspiring for us at ISCA. It is really, really crucial for us to be part of these type of movements of awareness creation for physical activity. Well, we've seen a lot over the last couple of days here at the MOVE 2012 Congress about the challenge, the problem that we're facing of physical inactivity. It is what we could call a wicked problem. Wicked problems are problems, the term came from social planning, that are very hard to solve. They are hard to solve because they are systemic, they are interrelated with other problems, and they need long-term actions. So just to put this into perspective, climate change, the AIDS epidemic, and nuclear weapons are other of these wicked problems. So we are challenged with something here that is a little bit tough. I think I'm also glad to be here to share some good news and hopefully also a little bit of inspiration on how we can overcome these wicked problems and how campaigns can be part of that. So one of the good pieces of news is that we got the question right. If you want to solve a wicked problem, you need to pose the question in a way that helps you solve it. So if we were to say we want to create well-being for everybody, it's very hard to define your actions. If we said this is about creating health for everybody, it's very hard and complex to define the actions. But we have defined the problem to be physical inactivity. And what you see here is really examples of how to frame that. This is taken from the Design to Move framework that you heard of this morning. How physical activity can help promote both financial, physical, emotional, individual, social, and intellectual capital. So physical activity promotes other and larger goals, and this is why we got the question right. If we can get people to be physically active, we will help also address these issues. So the other good pieces of news is that we know it's possible. Maybe, or indeed, the levels of physical activity are declining in many places, but there is still a good proportion of the population that are physically active. We know what this is about. We have it in our hands. You have it in your hands. Can I see your hands, please? Very good. You have it in your hands. We can do something about the problem. We know what it takes, physical activity. We just need a little bit more of that. So really, the wicked problem can be solved. Another good piece of news is that there are many roads to success. It's not just one thing that needs to be done to get there. A lot of things can be done to get people physically active. This is not only about sports. It's also about play. It's also about transportation. And we can help get there. Also, it's good that we are not alone, if you will. So if I speak as an NGO representative, this is not only about civil society. It's about all sectors to contribute. And I think it was put very precisely by Lisa McCallum this morning how different sectors really need to contribute to solve this problem. So, on the general level, how can one solve these type of wicked problems, such as physical inactivity? Well, there's the authoritative way, whereby we define who is the institution or organization that's responsible for solving the problem, and we give them the power to solve it. There's the competitive way, whereby we say a lot of different actors have to find their own way to solve the problem and compete and see who gets there first. And then there's the collaborative way, whereby the actors are supposed to get together, discuss the solutions, define how to get to the finishing line, and work together on that. And I'll come back to my comments to which of these methods is appropriate. Well, moving on to physical activity campaigns, generally speaking, it's very important for us to look into what has been done before, what has been successful, and what has not been. So later in my presentation and afterwards from Patrick from EuroSport, you'll hear more about a specific European physical activity campaign. But this is really to share with you some of the evidence that researchers have gathered about the successfulness of physical activity campaigns. Now, if we think that one campaign can get sedentary people from being in the couch to being permanently physically active, we need, as I think Kelly would put it, to think again. This is a really, really tough challenge to address. So we need to move on several steps from not even considering being physically active. The individual needs to move to considering it. He needs to prepare, understand what he can do. He needs to try it out, and he needs to be permanently physically active. Those steps are not taken via one physical activity campaign. So my advice and suggestion when we and you discuss physical activity campaigns is to be very precise on what is it that you want to achieve, on which step are you moving, which other actions do you need to address the other steps eventually. So what we've learned is that basically people's physical activity is addressed at local level, at community level. You need to have the right opportunities, the right drivers on a local level to get people and maintain people to be physically active. Campaigns are generally seen as a larger framework, often on a national level, whereby you create both political attention, investment, and rally stakeholders together. So campaigns have an important role to play on the national governmental level. So we thought about this in the European context. The European continent obviously is consisting of many countries. Is there something, when we talk about physical activity promotion, that can be done on a European level? If actions should be community-based and eventually supported by national campaigns, what can be done on a European level? Well, we believe that the European level can give an impetus to physical activity by creating political awareness and understanding of the need to promote physical activity. And again, what we heard this morning, designed to move as a clear, communicable tool, is very important to create this type of political awareness. We wanted to design, and we have designed a campaign that we believe can succeed in creating political awareness. We also want to highlight the need for us not to stand alone in the sport for all sector, the need for cross-sector collaboration. So really, when we address physical activity on a European level, it's also to address the overarchingness of the problem, meaning we need other sectors to come on board. And the campaign that will be presented today is trying to do just that. And then we thought it's interesting to explore also to what extent can a European campaign actually allow national initiatives and local initiatives to feel positively linked, to feel that they belong to something bigger. Is that a value, to feel that you're part of something bigger? We think it may be, and this is what we aim to do with the campaign. So, to address the problem of physical inactivity in a different way, we looked at the statistics in Europe. These are European Union data on physical inactivity. And even though it's not extremely clear on the slide, you will notice that there are darker areas and brighter areas. And the darker areas are areas where the populations in those countries are less physically active. We have, in other words, identified a gap between active countries and less active countries. And when you look at the total population in European Union of roughly 500 million persons, and you can see that the gap is roughly 20% between the most active and least active countries. Well, you come up with something that's interesting, namely a metric, a number of where we could get if we close the physical activity gap. And that gap is 100 million Europeans. So we said we need a vision, we need political messaging here. The message should be that by 2020 we should close the physical activity gap and we should get 100 million more Europeans to be physically active. I would say this is a pretty good ambition. It's also a vision that not one actor can achieve alone, but it's politically relevant because this is where we talk about scale and messages that politicians tend to like. And we've seen that indeed this message of 100 million more has achieved a very good political attention and endorsement indeed. So what to do about it? We have the message, how to get there. We have designed, and I'll go briefly through this, a campaign that has three drivers: health, social inclusion and innovation on your left-hand side here. We have 4 pillars: the Move Week, the awards and rewards scheme, capacity building, and advocacy. And we have on the right-hand side the partners, the sectors that we want to come along in the delivery of this campaign. So these, again, are the 4 elements that I described. The Move Week, which we tested this year, we said, how can we create awareness about physical activity opportunities already existing and new ones in one specific week every year. This is the Move Week, the first week of October, and we use that as a means to providing information to politicians and individuals that they can be physically active. There are opportunities out there, and this sector is really doing a lot. There's a lot of things happening, not only in the Move Week, but all year long. We are devising now the advocacy, the lobbying, if you will, towards governments on a national and European level to make them focus more on physical activity promotion. And as Mogens Kirkeby said earlier today, there are different types of attention. There's financial attention, there's media attention, and what we want to create really is a lot of awareness, politically speaking, so that investments are being made in physical activity promotion. So, in order to promote, highlight, and enhance physical activity offers, we've also designed an awards and rewards scheme. We want to give more attention and maybe even also financial means to the very best examples that are out there. The ones that others can be inspired by and implement in their own communities. And this is the awards and rewards scheme. And finally, capacity building is really crucial for us. Sharing information, creating political awareness is very important, but if you want organizations to do something better than they did yesterday, they need to enhance and increase their capacities, their ability to deliver physical activity. And this education or capacity building is the 4th element of the Now We Move campaign towards 100 million more Europeans physically active. So we are developing this as we speak. As I said, this was a test year of the Move Week. The other elements are being developed now. We are extremely excited to do this. We are, I think, covering new grounds here, and we'd like to get your feedback and other people to come on board in this campaign development. And in the context of Move 2012 Congress, I think this is an interesting quote from the lead singer of Grateful Dead. I took it from a YouTube video called 23.5 Hours. Somebody has to do something, in other words, about physical inactivity. It's just incredibly pathetic that it has to be us. But we have to do it. We are launching a campaign called Now We Move because if we don't do something, if we wait for everybody else to do something, chances are nothing will happen. So let's do it. It's the message. Even though we don't, maybe we don't know exactly where this will end, sometimes you have to start. So basically, covering the questions I addressed before, should the solution be authoritative? Should we vest all the power in one authority that tells everybody what to do and solve the problem? No, we should not, because that authority does not exist, and we don't think there's only one solution to the physical activity problem. Should it be competitive? Should we compete to be the best ones to promote physical activity? Well, to some extent, I think yes. Let's not be afraid that other organizations are doing the same as we are. Because there's a lot of physical inactivity. There's enough for everybody to address it. And if a little healthy competition can help us get there, I think that's a positive thing. Collaborative, I think our experience from Europe is we want stakeholders to come together. We want the organizations that are doers to really chip in and be part of the campaign and the solution. But we also have taken the political decision not to wait for everybody to reply. To take initiative, to go forward, and then to see who tags along. So collaboration is good, aligning stakeholders is good, but if you wait until everybody's with you, you will wait a long time. We did not wait. So now we are in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, obviously. I want to just give you a final thought, really. The initiative of Movie Brazil that Maria Luiza just presented is very, very inspirational. I think it's been a pleasure for us also to use some of the European experience to perhaps inspire a little bit what is happening here in Brazil. And a relevant question would be, some of the drivers that we are trying to promote in Europe, could they also be relevant on a Latin American scale? Is that something to consider going forward? Can there be a campaign for physical activity in Latin America? Is that a right context to address? So with these few words and a little bit more than 16 and a half minutes, I am most open for your questions. I would like to share information about the campaign, and for sure I look forward also to learning what other campaigns have brought to the fore. So thank you very much.
Obrigada, Jacob. Vou passar agora a palavra para Patrick Maitrot, por favor.
Sorry, yes, please.
Hello. Okay, good morning still to everybody. We still have to wait a little bit for the lunch, but we're getting there. First, I would like to say that I'm very, very pleased to be with you today. I'm working with EuroSport for 16 years, and to be honest, EuroSport, if you want to define what we are doing sport, business, and media. And obviously, when I listened to those 2 days of Congress, when I've been impressed by the quality of the different elements that I've seen, it seems to be quite far for what all of you are trying to do. So my objective today is to try to show you how sport can help to drive sport activity, because in these 2 days I had the impression sometimes that it's a bit opposite positioning, and I feel like the sport should be a big drive for sport activity. And also I will try to show you how a media like EuroSport or some others can help to, let's say, make noise, increase the awareness, and create something so at the end of the day we manage to move. So that's my presentation. Sport, first, is at the heart of our daily life. Obvious for most of us, but I think it's always important to keep in mind these elements. Sport has a role in the society, sport has a role in our daily life and daily, experience. Obviously, sport and politics, I think it's elements that already be covered, but I think it's important to remind that sport can help to, let's say, destroy some borders, to make people and some, let's say, different nationality closer. I think sport is also about learning, so we can speak about legacy. So there is a lot of talk in the last, let's say, 3 years about the legacy. So the example that which is the more common is the London Olympic Games. We say, okay, we will be the games of the legacy. Well, obviously, you can be a bit cynical and look at the results, but still, I think there is a will in the sport, in the international sport, to have a better role and to leave something for the future. I just say a word also on sport psychology, which is, we're going to speak a lot. We spoke already a lot about sport and health. I think resilience is also a good example of the role can have sport in your daily life, which is, okay, I have something happen in my life which is terrible, and how sport can help me. And I think it's important that we keep this in mind. Next, sport is a social currency. Yeah, seems to be obvious, but still, I think we need to have this clearly in mind. Today, the main, let's say, icebreaker subject when you meet someone, wherever it is to speak about sport. It doesn't have to be professional sport. It can be what you have been doing last weekends with your family. It can be biking experience. It can be whatever. But it's important that we keep in mind this incredible power of the sport as a social currency. Just to give you a few examples, there were 2 billion viewers for the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. And if you look at Facebook fans, David Beckham has 15 million fans. And I know a lot of politicians who would love to have this level of fans on their Facebook. So I come back to the sport and to athletes. The athletes are the heroes of the modern time. I think it's important also to think about how you can use the athletes and the professional athletes to, let's say, drive some message, to activate. Of course, there is always some people who are going to speak about the bad aspect of the celebrity, about doping, about match fixing, I don't know. Still, you know, if you speak to the kids, because we were speaking a lot about kids this morning, I think in the top 3 star, you always have an athlete. And that's very important to, once again, to bring a message, you know, to bring something which is, okay, I'm going to listen to this message because he's speaking to me. But sport is also about values. And it's something that we spoke a lot during these two last days. So I think obviously it's unity, obviously it's respect. It's something that I like a lot when I listen to the different presentations is what I will call the team spirit on the sporting side, but how can we share our experience? How can we, let's say, learn from the others? There is other elements that I would like to highlight, which is very important, is the emotion. The emotion of sport. I'm sure that all the people which are here with us today, they had one day, you know, the little tears when they were watching an incredible sporting event on TV. And that's very important because when you touch to the emotion, then you touch to the behavior of the people. And then after, they have a different way of acting. And then we arrive where we want to arrive, which is how can we change some behavior? Sport activity is already important in many European daily life, as Jacob said just before. Obviously, the objective is to have 100 million more Europeans doing sport, but there is still a lot of Europeans which are doing sport on their day-to-day life. And it's also important that we find a way to keep them into a sport activity. So it's also how can we convince people to start to do sport, but also what can we say to the people to say, okay, you need to keep on doing sport, whatever you have. Is it your age? Is it a problem of timing? Is it a problem of whatever? What I like in this also is that a lot of sports, or people who are doing sports, they're doing in what I will call a non-structured environment. And that's exactly what we want to raise, what we want to touch, is how can we do sport, but without any federation structure and so on. And still, which is important, because let's say the people, I will say they are clever, or they know what they're doing. And when they say, why do you do sport? 61% of the Europeans say, I'm doing sport for health, and much more than for fun. And I think it's also something that we need to think about when we communicate about sport activity. Fun remains very important. People need to have pleasure to play. And once again, I will refer to what we see this morning, which is about the kids and sport. It's important that the people, and the kids especially, they have fun, you know. It doesn't have to be a constraint to do and say, oh, Wednesday you have to do your football training. It has to be a pleasure. Okay, so the next chart, I think we'll see some reaction. I put it together in order to, let's say, to struggle against what I will call the couch potatoes syndrome, which is, sport on TV or TV is the opposite of sport activity. These figures came from a survey called TGI, which is one of the biggest European surveys in terms of consumption of product and consumption of media. What you will see here, and it's simple, is the more people watch sport on TV, I don't put it like this, sorry. When you look at the people who watch sport on TV more and more, so less than an hour, 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours, and over than 4 hours, you will see that their activity in sport increase also. It doesn't mean that there is a direct link, but it means that we can't always say, sport on TV is against sport activity. I believe that there is a link, and I believe that we need to find once again the way to have this message. And what is also interesting is to see the influence and the impact of sport on TV. on the practice. So I put together two examples, which are French examples, sorry, but it's about the evolution of the number of licensees after a big sporting event. So the first one is the Rugby World Cup in France. In France, 2006-7. As you can see, the simple event takes place in France as a consequence of 26% of increase of the number of licensees in the Rugby Federation. And France didn't win the World Cup. They were kicked in the semi-final. And if you look at the other one, on the left-hand side, it's handball. In the past, let's say 5 years or 6 years, France is considered as the best handball team in the world. And have won twice the Olympic gold medal, the world champs, Euro champs, and so on. And handball has always been, by essence, a school sport. So all the French kids, they play handball in the school. So they know the sport. But there were very little influence on the number of licensees. If you look at the result of these events, you will see that constantly, after 2008, it increased step by step, and it's keep on increasing. Okay. I made the right mistake. I pushed the wrong button, sorry. Yes. A last example, last element which is important is impact of sport on, let's say, your consciousness, health consciousness. And this is a focus on EuroSport viewers. And EuroSport viewers are not better than the other one, but which is interesting to see, if you compare viewers and non-viewers, is that there are 40% more thinking that it's important to do sport and to remain healthy. So, you know, once again, it's not scientific figures. It's just that I think there is an impact between the sport and media and your conscious and your willingness to do sport activity. So, what can we do, let's say, as a media platform like EuroSport let's say, to make noise and to have a better awareness and to convey this message? So first, I say 2 words on EuroSport, but the introduction was very clear. We are a pan-European TV network. We are broadcast in 55 European countries, about, let's say, 160 million households receiving EuroSport all over Europe. We have a TV channel, or 2 TV channels, but also we have a website and a mobile application, which is very successful, which is the #1 in terms of sport content. We have always been, and sport is our DNA by essence, and we have always been more than a pure broadcaster. We have always tried to promote. Will it be the city bid for the promoter? Will it be federation for some sport? And we have obviously this expertise for TV production and for media and for event organizing. What is important is also that the viewers today, what they are expecting from sport on TV, or globally when they watch TV, is storytelling. And I think it's very important that you keep this in mind. Storytelling means you need to bring something to your audience which is not just fact, but it has to feel, it has to work a little bit on the emotion, and we'll come back to the emotion here. Obviously, I will say that TV globally and also digital platform are the strongest media in terms of audience. And if you want, once again, to reach the masses, you want to have the biggest audience, you need to have the power of a media platform. And I believe that is very important. What is interesting also to see that if you speak about sport, all sport, or let's say all target has a favorite sport. And the profile is very different from one sport to the other. So obviously you have the classical men football audience, but if you go to tennis or to winter sport or to figure skating, for instance, it's very much more female. Then after you go to snowboard and surf, it's very younger. And you know, every sport as a target, so you have the possibilities through sport to reach, I would say, everybody. And which is also very interesting, if you look at the recent surveys, that clearly big sporting events are a family gathering. it's not only one guy which is watching the Olympic Games, it's all the family. Obviously, some people, let's say the kids of the family, at the same time they are on their tablets or they're on their mobile, maybe someone is doing something else and so on, but still, it's a sort of central gathering. It's very important also, let's say, to have an effect on the family behavior. A little example, I think, which is important to understand, which is the easy parallel. It's the ex-smoker campaign. The ex-smoker campaign has been made with between EuroSport and European Commission. It's not anti-smoking. Anti-smoking is to, let's say, to say to the young generation that they don't have to smoke. It was even, I think, even more difficult, which is, okay, you have to convince the smoker that they have to stop smoking. So, as you will see after, you will have, I will show you a little video, 1.5 minutes, just to explain to you how we played between the media aspect, the emotional aspect, the testimonial aspect of the athletes, and how we're trying to do all together a clear message for this campaign. So, let's watch the video now.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
From the 26-year-old Patrick Macau.
Nochmal, falsche Richtung genommen, noch im Step rüber. Ups, das war's.
Hola, soy David Ferrer y te invito a que te hagas exfumador.
Saj veste, da kajenje ni zdravo, tako da postanite nekadilec tudi vi.
Two more minutes. I'm running late, I'm sorry. So, what have we done with the Move Week? First, we were very lucky to have the opportunity to meet the people from ISCA. And I think we spoke a lot about them today, but I think that it was not at the start an easy, let's say, that's an easy partnership, because we are from two different worlds. But I think that's what we have in mind right now, and what the project that we're putting together with the Move Week and the Now We Move project is really something that will change a little bit the way we can communicate and a little bit the perception of the project. So today, we have started quite late, I have to say, this project. We just finalized a sort of agreement for last summer, and the event was in October. But you know, we managed in just 2 to 3 months to put together a real sustainable campaign, I would say, which is about the promotion, obviously, of the different of the Move Week, which is a content of the website, which also integrate a lot of social network and social media approach. And I think that we are now working, obviously, for the future, but I really believe that it is an important achievement, and that this way of communicating will be very successful for the future. Well, it's difficult to give you the real figures, but the good thing is that, and we will see, now we monitor the results, we know how many people participate to the Move Week this year, and it will be easier for us to, in the future, to see how it evolves. So I just have a little video, it's very short, this one, 15 seconds, which is a promotion spot that we have done for the Now We Move. And after, I'm done.
Join the Move Week on nowwemove.com.
So just 30 seconds. Take away. I know. French people, it's very difficult to interrupt, I know. 30 seconds. Now I think sport and athletes is at the heart of our daily life, and it's more and more the case. I believe that the best drive and environment is sport, and will be fine. You have to use to promote physical activity. To influence the audience, especially the youngest, the message should be positive and inspirational, and the emotion part is crucial. And to conclude, TV remains from far the strongest way to spread a message to big numbers, reinforced by digital and for more and more individual informative content, and obviously social network. Thanks a lot, and sorry for the time delay.
Obrigada, Patrick. Kelly Murumets.
It's now no longer good morning, it's good afternoon. How are you doing? Are you okay? Do you need to stand? Just stand up and then sit back down. And you'll wake up. Quickly, quickly. Thank you, thank you. Yay, yay, yay. I gotta tell you, it's not easy going last here. Okay, now sit down. And by the way, if you think we can't see you sleeping, we can see you sleeping from up here, so don't sleep. Wake up, wake up. Okay, so I would just say thank you very much for having me. I'm completely honored to be in Brazil. I love your country. I am very honored to be at the Move Congress, so thank you, Sesc and ISCA. And I'm very honored to be with these distinguished panelists, so thank you. This is terrific. Yes, I run an organization called ParticipAction. It's in Canada. It's the national voice of physical activity and sport participation in my country. And our focus is on getting Canadians to move more. That's it. We inspire Canadians to be more physically active, and we inspire society to make it easier to do so, and we try very hard to build capacity to allow that to happen. And so what you're going to hear today is one of our properties. We do many, many things, but this is one of our properties called Sports Day in Canada. And some of you I gave tattoos to, so you can stick those tattoos on your arm or on your face and you'll look like a Canadian. And what we do, everything that we do, is all about partnerships. So we're a very small organization, 15 people. We partner with all of the organizations in this sports sector, leisure, recreation, physical activity, health promotion, education. So we partner with not-for-profit organizations. We partner with governments at the federal level, provincial, territorial, which is like your states, and the very local level. And we partner with the private sector. And I would just tell you, I come from the private sector. I left the private sector to come to the not-for-profit world because I'd like to go change the world. And I think that it's possible to go change the world, but together we must be very smart. We need to work arm in arm across all of those sectors and across all of those disciplines. And hopefully you'll hear that story as I tell you the Sports Day in Canada story, and I'll be careful about time. So you probably think of Canadians as being very outdoors. We move a lot, we play. And as Canadians, we think of ourselves as a sporting nation as well. So we paint our faces, we paint our bellies, and we go to sporting events, and we cheer, and that's how we think of ourselves as Canadians and as the country of Canada. However, not so true. Our sport participation numbers in Canada have declined 18 percentage points over 13 years. Only 15% of our adults meet our physical activity guidelines, and that's 150 minutes of physical activity per week. And our children, if I tell you the stats about our Canadian kids, they will knock your socks off. So only 7% of our kids get 1 hour of physical activity per day. We know that childhood obesity in Canada has tripled in the last 3 decades. We know that our Canadian kids spend, on average, 8 hours per day on screens. Try to add that in your minds, and you're thinking, do they sleep? When you think they're sleeping, they're on screens. So, and I'd give you one more stat. 50% of Canadian kids spend 3 hours or less per week in active play, and that includes weekends. So you're probably not very proud of us as a nation. You probably thought Canadians were much more active than just now when I came out to tell you these stats. However, I believe everything is possible, and we're going to turn this alarming situation around. So we're thinking about how to do this. And I love that I followed Patrick, because we at ParticipAction believe that there is power in sport. And it's all of everything that you know and many things that Patrick talked about. So we know that sport can galvanize a country. We know that communities that engage in sport have lower crime rates. And in 2010, Canada played host to the Winter Olympic Paralympic Games. Just wait till you host the Games. I'm telling you, it is so exciting. Our Olympic Paralympic Games truly touch the hearts and souls of every Canadian in our country. So he said, okay, let's think about the legacy of these Games. How do we play off those Games and create something really important, really valuable, and very sustainable? And so we thought of Sports Day in Canada. This last year was our 3rd Sports Day in Canada. And it truly is about the celebration of sport at the elite level, but most importantly at the grassroots level. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to be sure that every Canadian, young, old, new to the country, always lived in the country, from every part of the country, so our region is very large, our population is very small, we're only 34 million people, and that from any ethnic background, people would try sport, that they would learn to appreciate sport and understand the power of sport. We also wanted to gain some political clout and make sure that politicians understood the power of sport. We wanted to drive investment to the sports sector, and we wanted to ignite the hearts and souls once again of every Canadian. And so I'll just show you a video here. Pablo, you're my guy. And this will show you 2011 Sports Day in Canada. I know Pablo's working on this in the back. He's probably sweating right now. And I can't help him, so I can go back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 2nd annual Sports Day in Canada. I'm Scott Russell. Today, we get a chance to rediscover what it is that physically moves us as a nation. For every individual, sports offers the potential of inner improvement. Let's see how that plays out today on Sports Day in Canada.
This is True Sport and ParticipAction's way, along with CBC, of trying to encourage people to just get more physically active and celebrate sport in this country more.
It's the fall selection for Canada's short track speed skating team.
We're in Toronto's Distillery District trying to get Canadians moving, or should I say flying.
Essayer un nouveau sport par faire la pratique d'un autre, s'inspirer des meilleurs et inspirer les autres. L'événement d'une journée, d'une semaine, aura des répercussions pour longtemps.
I often say as a kid I probably ended up in jail if I didn't play hockey or other sports, so I had somewhere to put all the energy, and you know, for sure I think that it's an outlet and such a healthy one.
Great day full of activities, lots of different free sports all day long.
La journée du sport, c'est 1500 événements partout à travers le Canada, des événements pour célébrer la joie de faire du sport.
Sport, it builds character. But also I think we have this natural ability inside of us. We all have this potential, and sport really reveals that.
The second year, and if it looks like this on the second year, I can only imagine in 10 years' time what it's like. It's great showing the power of sports.
I'm pumped up. I'm losing my voice. I'm so pumped up over it.
Yeah, I love sports.
Thank you, Pablo. See if we can get this back. Pablo, you think there's any hope of getting off the black screen now? Oh, you did it. Thank you. So every time I watch that video, it makes me cry because, yes, the power of sport, and also it just fills you full of joy. And that's truly what that video shows. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, the partners. So ParticipAction partnered with True Sport to get all sport organizations in the country on side. So that's the not-for-profit. On the media side, we have CBC, which is our Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and their SRC partner, which is a French equivalent. So they're our media partner. Too bad we don't have EuroSport. And then we also have public sector partners. So federal government, you saw there, Minister Balgasel, as our federal Minister of Sport, was involved. Provinces and territories are involved, and local governments involved. And then private sector, we have Subway, New Balance, and a print media partner. So that's Sports Day 2011. 2012 just happened. It was September 29th and the week leading up to it. And I don't have those results yet. By the way, we measure everything before, during, and after. But we knew that 2011 was wildly successful. And so we said, because I'm always pushing the envelope, how do we make 2012 even bigger? And so we said, you know, we think that the secret's going to be community mobilization. And that is really the topic that we're talking about here this afternoon, is how do you mobilize communities to get countries more physically active? And so we went to the communities that we had some experience with last year. We found the spark plug, the very energetic person or persons in that community, and then we gave them tools to get them to get their community all galvanized around Sports Day in Canada this year. And some of you don't know me, but I tend to be very A-type. I have no clue how you translate that in Portuguese. So my team said they thought we could probably galvanize 20 specific communities and get them really rocking with Sports Day in Canada. I said, no. 20 is too small. We need 50. And then in the end, for 2012, we galvanized 99 specific communities and got them mobilized around Sports Day in Canada. And of course, then my question back was, why did we stop one short of 100? Anyways, 99 communities. We were over 1,400 events. And last year we were in 425 communities. My guess is we were in more communities in Canada this year. So 2012, I think, will be, when we see the results, very, very successful. When I talk about community engagement, that for me is going to be the crux or the gem in terms of this success. And so it is, how do you get communities engaged? All of us are asking that question in all of our jobs. And so in this case, we would go to, like I said, that spark plug in a community and say, how do you get all of the doors opened for swimming pools, for rec centers? How do we get people just to try it? How do you get your local politicians down? How do we end up with Paralympians and Olympians involved, or local celebrities? And so we did that on a community by community by community basis. At ParticipAction, we know that in the sports sector, there is no money. And I don't know how many of you work in organizations where you think you have lots of money. Most of us in our organizations have no money, no resources, and we rely a great deal on volunteers. So we at ParticipAction worked really hard to give communities and organizations tools where they could get their communities more organized around Sports Day in Canada. And so things like PR tools. So most organizations don't know how to get the media involved or excited about what they were doing. We have CBC television. We have CBC radio stations in Canada, and then we helped local organizations get local newspapers involved or local radio stations involved. We gave kits with posters, with banners, T-shirts, those tattoos that you should be proudly wearing, and prizes. We did webinars, so we would train people. They could phone in anywhere in the country. They could phone in and we would train them on how to deliver successful Sports Day. Our staff phoned, made thousands of phone calls, helping people. There still is nothing like real live phone calls and real live face-to-face. Yes, social media is important, but we did lots of phone calls. And then we had promo spots on CBC. We also used social media, so tweeting, Facebook, and we used the social media that was at our disposal of those private sector partners as well to help us. And we drove thousands, hundreds of thousands of tweets and Facebook. And then public relations, we did a survey so that we could have something that was interesting, that the media might be interested in. And we worked very hard to get profile of very high profile people through public relations. And so the pink newspaper here, that man is the Governor General of Canada. And I will never get on the front of the newspaper, but he can. So we would get the Governor General, we had the Prime Minister's office involved, we had federal ministers, we had local mayors, and each of them could get public relations, which helped us drive awareness. And then we went on a road trip. And I have to tell you, I have done nothing but travel for 5 weeks straight. I need to sleep in my own bed soon. But we did a 5-day road trip. And just to give you some orientation, from the west coast of Canada to the east coast of Canada, if you fly, it's 7 hours. So a really big country. So we started on the west coast, and each day we were in some city doing our road tour, driving more public relations, more media, and more interest. And everything that we did was sort of a community story. I loved when Patrick said that. For me, Sports Day in Canada is all about stories. relevant stories about real live Canadians getting involved in sport and feeling its power. So this was Sport in the Family was Monday's theme, and we were in Vancouver. Tuesday's theme was coaching, and we had a professional football team, not this football, working with high school kids, coaching them. Wednesday we were in Winnipeg, and the theme was giving back. And I don't know if you're familiar, but the National Hockey League is on strike. And so there's no hockey in Canada, which in Canada is a big deal. It's a very big deal. And so we went to a place where we knew they had professional hockey players, and so we could get media there, and those hockey players were just practicing because they're not really playing, but we could have some media there. And then we talked about their foundation and how they give back, and we had kids who had never been on skates before skating with these professional hockey players.
2 minutes.
Okay, Excellence was our Thursday, and we were in Halifax, east coast of Canada, and Friday is Jersey Day. So that's the day right before Sports Day in Canada. And Jersey Day is you wear the jersey of your most favorite team, and you wear it to work, you wear it to school, you wear it to play. And here again, me taking advantage of public relations wherever I can. We got every mayor in our province of British Columbia to wear their jerseys, and they all took a photo together. And politicians, by the way, love media. So if you can get politicians, they want media. If you can get them media, they're very happy, they'll participate, and they help build a profile. And then on the this side over here, these are the ministers of health for every province in Canada. And they all wore their jerseys. And I said in Colombia earlier this week, Quebec in Canada never does what the other provinces do in Canada. But here we have the Quebec Minister of Sport wearing his jersey with all the rest of Canadian ministers. And so Sports Day in Canada 2012, I believe, wildly successful. We already have sport organizations calling us, asking us about Sports Day in Canada 2013. What are we doing? What's the day? How can they get involved? How can they create a vignette? How can they be on television? And so I expect that this is going to be something that we do forever and ever and ever. And I'm hoping that by continuing to mobilize communities, letting them feel the power of sport, letting them experience the power of sport, that we actually can change the world. And there are just some photos here that you can see from Sports Day. Really lovely. When you see the photos, you can see it's every kind of person, every age of person involved in Sports Day. And as the photos show, I would just let you know, this only happens through partnerships. And so I would really encourage you, wherever you can, work with your sisters and brothers in the not-for-profit organizations, public sector, private sector, media partners. Maybe you can grab Patrick's card from EuroSport, and we can actually go change the world arm in arm together. So thanks.
Obrigada, Kelly. Sei que nós estamos já no horário, mas nós começamos com 20 minutos de atraso, então nós vamos ter 20 minutos de acréscimo para poder dar conta das perguntas, para conseguir promover esse debate. Minha primeira pergunta.
My first question is for Maria Luiza. And I think this is a question that is very important, very relevant for anyone who wants to develop in projects and partnerships. Considering, so I'm going to ask you the first question. Considering the dimension and diversity in Brazil, working together in the same line of action is certainly a challenge and a great learning experience. So how do you see this process? Well, actually, I've already said some things about our experience in working together, this experience through the coordination of a challenge day. You're sure? Is there a name from whoever sent that question? Well, actually, you're right. It is a process. It's a very difficult process, but it's also an important process. If we want to change our population's behavior and reduce inactivity, we have to work together. If, without losing our own identity, we all belong to different organizations. Our organizations have missions and have proposals. We need to find different ways to work together and with a common goal. This common goal is very comprehensive because, and at the same time, it's a challenging goal because it establishes a certain thing, something to be achieved. And when we talk about physical activity, it's going to impact on the final goal that we have established. So because it is such a comprehensive goal, I think it's a little bit easier, but we'll always learn with each different feat. And it's important to bear in mind that this work process has what we call the assessment that we are going to conduct at the end of 2014, because our idea is to repeat this research in 2014 to know if we're going on a right track, if we need to increase our efforts, if we need to increase our involvement. And in 2016, a new survey will be carried out so that we can say, okay, we've reached this objective, and we hope that everything that we've done will have really impacted people's lives to increase physical activity practices in Brazil. Thank you, Maria Luiza. Now this is a question for Jakob. What are the difficulties to know if the project is on the right path? And if you have any examples, what are the actions to improve this?
Well, the difficulty is to know if you're on the right path, in my opinion, is really to set up the right measurement tools. So you have to define what is it that you want to achieve, and you have to make a good way of measuring it. And I think Kelly indeed is a good inspiration in this way, in terms of setting up the right metrics and finding out how you get there. Now, on a more overall level, of course, the vision of 100 million more Europeans is pretty tangible. On the other hand, we know also that we need to be breaking that down, not only in terms of numbers of individuals that are active, but also in how we reach political audiences, how we build the capacity of physical activity promoting organizations, and how we basically manage to run the promotion of the campaign to reach a wider audience. So I would say on an overall level, difficulties in achieving objectives means you have to define them first, and we really need to make sure we understand and communicate what are our successes, but also where we need to do more. On an overall level, I can also say that we are challenged because partnerships are not always easy. So we are challenged also to understand our partners. We are challenged, honestly, to understand Patrick and the way he works in the media sector. We are challenged to understand politicians, the way they need to communicate. So really setting yourself in other people's stead is something very important, and trying to communicate as clearly as possible to your partners. And I think we are learning quite a lot about that as we go along. Thank you.
Now we have two other questions for Patrick. I'm going to ask you both. They're a little bit different, but I think they're in the same category. In addition to the ex-smoking campaign, there are other initiatives like the incentive for physical activity or against drugs and alcohol and cigarettes. And the other question has to do with expanding knowledge for other sports, especially soccer in Europe, is very, very visible for the rest of the world. Is there the intention of European media to talk about other sports that are maybe not as popular? If there are other campaigns, such as the campaign against drugs and alcohol, in the same lines as the cigarette campaign, anti-smoking campaign.
First question. For the moment, let's say that we have an approach with the European Commission to work on several subjects. There is the one which is very active is anti-smoking or ex-smoker. We used to work also on the anti-smoking campaign, which are obviously one of the subjects which is very, very important, I guess, on the European Commission level. I know that there is several discussion about sport and health more globally, but also about how can we, let's say, work or let's say struggle against obesity, against diabetes. So just to be concrete, for the moment, the main subject is the anti-smoking and what we're doing with ISCA for the Move Week. I'm sure that in the future there will be more and more concern in the way that media can be used to spread this message. That was for the first question. And the second one was
about different initiatives from the European media to talk about other sports.
I think in the question there is two questions. First, EuroSport is a channel which are not football focused, because it's not the way we position ourselves, and we have about 100 different sports broadcast on the channel. When I say 100 different sports, it includes a lot of what I will call participative sports. So we have obviously a lot of professional events, that's our core business, but we also try to have more and more events like marathons or like outdoor racing or like cross-country skiing. You know, we're trying to be more and more in a participative way. Still, it has to be, we have to be frank between us. It's difficult to broadcast a whole event which is about amateur sports. So we need, and that's what we're working together also in the future with ISCA, we need to find the right format to tell a story which is interesting for everybody about how can we speak about participative sports. And obviously, the football is very, very strong, and I just give you one example to highlight what is mentioned on football. The ex-smokers campaign, which was on EuroSport. Ex-smokers, they have signed a partnership with FC Barcelona just 2 months ago, and they will be the partners of the FC Barcelona. So obviously, they understood on the European Commission level that be partner with a big brand like Barcelona can convey once again the message, and especially with the youngest audience.
I have a question for Kelly from Rodrigo. Do you believe that people are still involved in physical activities after Sports Day? Is there any type of control for this type of information?
That's a great question. And I probably got jittery there and forgot to mention this. So Sports Day is just an opportunity to highlight the power of sport. But ParticipAction, our organization, works to have Canadians more physically active every single day of the year. So we work, I would say Sports Day is probably an 8-month campaign. We work with sport organizations to help drive demand for their programs for the 8 months. Then CBC television and radio helps to promote sport for several weeks leading up to Sports Day. So we profile little vignettes, Canadian stories about how Canadians are getting more physically active, how they're trying sport. So that will show on CBC every week leading up to. Then the week right before Sports Day is very intense, and we're profiling all kinds of Canadians from all parts of the country, young and old and able-bodied, disabled-bodied. And then it sort of culminates on Sports Day in Canada. And so that's that very specific campaign. But ParticipAction has campaigns that then go even beyond those 8 months, and the message goes well beyond even sport. So we do measure. We measure whether Canadians understand messaging from various campaigns. We understand if Canadians, we measure whether Canadians intend to get more physically active or intend to participate in sport, both. We measure whether they actually do get involved in physical activity or sport. So we pretty much measure anything and everything as it relates to physical activity and sport. And Sports Day in Canada is just one very high-profile way of raising awareness. But the other things that we do 364 days of the year really drive the physical activity levels in the country.
As we are running out of time, before we finish, I would like each one of you to quickly close off or have some final remarks, but I'm going to provoke you to by saying, what would be your message in terms of campaigns to promote sports and physical activities? What do we need to pay attention to? What is crucial? What is more important for these campaigns? And what is the greatest difficulty that organizations and governments face in order to promote this type of awareness? I'm going to ask Marisa to start, but I'd like to just read a compliment, a direct compliment. It must be such a challenge to win over the culture of soccer in Brazil, and so congratulations to Sesc. And quickly, your final remarks. So first of all, thank you, but we count on you to be able to actually move everyone in Brazil. So it's important to highlight that we are a national institution, and Sesc leads this campaign, and we count on the collaboration of all the regional departments from different Sescs to find partners and to continue trying or employing our best efforts in trying to move Brazil and reach our goals that we established for ourselves. It's a great challenge for all of us. I'd like to close by inviting all of you to move our country.
Right. What is the most crucial thing? For me, the best thing we can do, and the best thing we can take away from a conference like Move 2012, is really to be inspired and to look beyond our own little pond. So the most crucial thing for each individual and each organization really is to look beyond to other sectors, and as Kelly mentions, for new partnerships. I think the best chance we have is really to work together towards a shared goal and stop thinking too much about ourselves and thinking about us. I hope that can be the tool that will allow us to achieve our goals. So, and what is the biggest problem? I think the biggest problem is if we don't do anything.
It's a difficult question. Now, I think what is important, if I look from my job, is once again, if you want to convey this kind of message, think about emotion. I think one of the words that we would like to highlight in everything what I've said, it's okay. You have to touch the emotion of the people if you want that it worked. It works for the product, but it works also for this physical activity. And if you want a success, you need emotion. And so if you want emotion, you need storytelling. And that's, for me, very important. Challenge. Once again, if I stay on my side, challenge for us will be measurement. I think we spoke a lot about measurement today, but when you are a media like EuroSport, you can always be very proud and say, oh, you have X million of viewers, it's incredible, it's amazing. But at the end of the day, what's the real effect? And that will be something we need to work on with ISCA, with some other people, but to say, okay, what's the real effect when you push a campaign on the media? What's the direct impact? And that will be a big challenge, I think, for the future.
So this time going last is a benefit. This is fantastic. So I completely support Maria Luisa, Jakob, and Patrick and everything that they said, so I'm going to try to say something a little bit different. I think that when you hear the stats in your own country and globally, it would be easy for us to not get out of bed in the morning and say, there is no hope, there is no chance we're going to overcome this negative trend or these negative inclinations that we've experienced for the last generation. I would tell you that, as I mentioned, I come from the private sector. I love what I get to do. I jump out of bed every single morning. I feel like I am working with some of the smartest people I've ever worked with, some of the most passionate people I've ever worked with, some of the people who are the most creative I've ever worked with. Somehow we are able to do something with no money. It's unbelievable and quite phenomenal. And so my message to you would be, jump out of bed every morning, do not lose hope, find inspiration from one another, and take incredible pride in the work that you're doing, because I really do believe that this work that we're doing, all of us together, I really do believe that it will make a difference. I do believe it will change the world.
I think the message is out there. We are all idealists. I think this is the final message from this panel. I would like to thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to come here and talk to us. Brazil can hear from you, your inspiring experiences. So we're going on to lunch. Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Good job, everybody.
Agradecemos aos convidados.
We thank all the guests, Patrick Maitrot, Kelly Murumets, Maria Luiza Souza Dias, and Jakob Schouenborg, and Daniela Castro, the moderator. I would also like to invite you to,